Good afternoon.
Hi. How's your day?
I guess like everybody else, warm and a little muggy.
So are we ready to start now? Yeah, I guess I'm really not running this meeting, am I?
We will turn it over to Amy and Trish, who have been working diligently on an update for the environmental initiatives presentation, which was, of course, one of the city council's goals. So they'd like to provide you kind of an update, how they've organized things, and provide a proposed work plan over the next 2 or 3 years and get your feedback on that.
Great.
Turn it over to Amy.
Thank you. Tricia, we can open the PowerPoint, please. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. I am Amy Lawrence, Special Programs Manager, and I'll be providing this presentation today along with Tricia Stoll, who's the Environmental Programs Management Analyst. You were previously sent a draft environmental initiatives tracker that Tricia put together with the assistance of several other city staff. We will be referring to that tracker and its recommended implementation today. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to jump in at any time. So as for today's agenda, we're going to be discussing the background, recommended plan implementation, current and proposed sustainability related projects, resource preservation and enhancement committee feedback that we received, and we will conclude by requesting feedback from the City Council on the proposed plan outline and any potential projects to add. So in February of 2022, the City Council held their annual goal setting study session where environmental initiatives was determined to be a priority. The Special Programs Division, Tricia and I, were tasked with developing an approach for this, which included an inventory of the city's current sustainability related projects and also researching what other cities are doing to be more environmentally sustainable. Moving on to the plan implementation, we will be presenting an overview of the draft environmental initiatives tracker, timeline, budget, measuring success, and reporting. The plan for submitting the plan submitted for consideration was a collaborative effort among many departments. It's broken down by focus, and each project will be overseen by a specific division. Special program staff will be responsible for the overall tracking of the plan's progress and reporting. And as for the timeline, staff will implement feedback from today's study session into the draft plan and take it to the City Council meeting on August 25th with a recommendation for adoption. Within the next 12 to 18 months, staff will seek a consultant to conduct a best practices review of the plan. We estimate that full implementation of the plan before you, including any additional proposed projects, will take about 3 years. After 3 years, staff will evaluate the plan's standing and determine next steps, which may be to hire a consultant to put a more formal plan in place. And I'd like to add that we see this plan as a living document with relevant projects being added throughout the next 3 years. Regarding the budget to implement projects, implement the plan, most projects already have funding allocated, so any proposed funding may require additional allocation. How will staff measure success of the plan? We plan to collect data on various utility metrics in order to track overall city usage and costs. We will also, where possible, collect data on individual project performance and/or estimated greenhouse gas emission reductions. Plan success will lead to the decreased utility usage, greenhouse gas emissions, and/or utility costs. And as for reporting on the plan, staff is recommending that we provide City Council quarterly project updates, as well as an annual update on the plan's progress and overall city utility metrics. So the next slides include the city's current sustainability related projects that were included in the draft tracker, which you were presented last week. The projects are separated by the following focuses: energy conservation, green transportation, sustainable landscaping, waste reduction, green building, and leading by example. So as we move through each slide, feel free to ask questions about specific projects, as we do have staff available to elevate for discussions. So we have a slide here, energy conservation. Are there any questions from council on this slide?
Mayor Pro Tem, please. You are muted.
Apologize for that.
There you go.
So Amy, thank you and good afternoon to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the question that I have is with regards to energy conservation and what I don't see on this slide. At one point, we looked at the possibility of all the city electrical accounts opting into Desert Community Energy and doing the all green alternative, which we calculated would result in significant reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. And I don't see that here so I'm not saying let's do it, but I'm surprised that it's not here to be under consideration. Can you comment on that?
I can actually maybe ask if we can elevate Andy Ramirez to see if he has any comments on that in case he's been working on it. I think that this is something we talked about some time ago. And I'm not sure if staff is still here that was working on the project, but it's certainly something we can look into.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put anybody on the spot. I guess what I would suggest is that moving forward, we at least include that for consideration, because as we know from the experience that Palm Springs has had, going all green, and typically with Desert Community Energy, it's a cheaper way to do it than with Edison. Going all green, even if it's just the city's accounts, is impactful. So I guess my point in bringing it up isn't to say we should do it, but to say that we should consider it.
Okay, we can certainly look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this
I
slide?
I want to just remind everyone that this is a study session. So we are not giving direction and we're not voting on things like that. So, let's be careful with that.
Okay, we can move on to the next slide.
I had a quick question.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Well, it's hard to see it when it's not raised. And thank you. I can see already that a whole lot of work has gone both into the content and the organization of this effort, which is greatly appreciated. The photovoltaic, aka rooftop solar project, are we still anxious about possible PUC changes influencing this project?
Councilmember Kelly, Andy Ramirez, Deputy Director of Public Works. The answer to that is we are not as anxious as we were before. We've been getting some positive assurances from SCE and Forefront in regards to this project. In fact, we've included into this project the Galen and also the Henderson and adding solar. And this is why you see an increase of $1.75 million towards this project that we'll be taking in August to the City Council. And so we've been working through a lot of situations in regards to the CPUC, which includes us reaching out directly to them. And so we're not as anxious as before. We feel like that based on the information we have as of today, we will be able to grandfather in the NEM 2.0 instead of the 3.0, which would have a negative consequence.
That is fantastic news. Thank you.
I have a question too. Some of these that we're looking at, are these some of them part of the energy inventory study that we had done?
Andy Ramirez, are you
And I think
aware
was that October? I think it was October of last year.
Mayor, would you be able to repeat that? I had a little audio issue there.
I'm sorry. Of these projects, I'm wondering how many, which ones are part of the energy inventory audit that we did, and I believe it was October of last year. Could be wrong.
Yes.
But
So this includes the Civic Center, the Aquatic Center area, and the area in Civic Center, which includes the Parkview area. And so, and the additions that I mentioned earlier. So if that's what you're referring to, yes, it does. If not, then it's not citywide.
okay, it wasn't, we contracted with someone to do an energy, or I'm not sure exactly what the title of it was, but some sort of audit on everything. And I believe that was or I think it came in front of the council in October, if I remember correctly. And I'm just wondering, what was the result, or what do we see on this that was a result of working with that group that helped us with that?
But we did have there's two separate projects here. Andy and his team did bring in a consultant to take a look and advise us of the solar opportunities in the city. We did have meetings with other firms that were talking to us about energy savings and aggregating streetlights, that sort of, and those sorts of things. We have not had a specific plan put in place because they were estimating that we owned far more of the streetlights and the traffic signals and possibly even the wastewater infrastructure than we actually even control or own. So we didn't move forward on that. As soon as we started talking about those assumptions with them, it immediately took the savings away. So we backed up, and obviously those are other jurisdictions that handle those, the metering and the water, wastewater in the Coachella Valley. So we instead kind of backed up and focused on the streetlight project itself to try to get that up and going.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions on this slide? Move along to the next, please. And green transportation. Are there any questions on this slide? Seeing no hands, we can move on to, I do see a hand.
Yes, yeah, there is one.
Okay, in regards to the walk and roll, it says you may get additional funding. So I guess that's my question I couldn't get to for the other one is when you said X is grant funded, does that mean that was the max, or we could have asked for more, just as I'm thinking about maintenance or future projects as this may get budgeted for future years?
If we can elevate Randy Bowman to answer this question, please. I know he's watching, so he'll be here momentarily.
Good afternoon, everybody. Council member, to your question, we'll be applying for active transportation program funding from the state to augment the city's 5-year CIP budget, which we fully funded most of the PD Link and Walk and Roll programs with city funds, but we're hoping to get ATP funds to allow us to redirect city funds in other directions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. Are there additional questions on this slide? Okay, seeing no hands, we can move to the next. And this would be green transportation continued. Any questions on these projects? And there's
Yes.
Please, I just all the council members, please. I'm looking at this and I'm not necessarily watching hands, so jump in, please.
I think the bike rack incentive program has been out there for a bit. Have we gotten any response?
Maybe we can elevate Deborah Glickman or Eric Seha if they're available.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Yes, we have gotten 4 responses to the bicycle rack program. There are 3 in process, and we just received an application yesterday. We've also sent out information to all of the brokers in the community to let them know about the program and remind them to remind their clients of the program, and are working on several other marketing strategies right now. The program should be in the next Bright Side also.
Super. And you don't need to name the specific applicants, but generally what part of town?
They're all over.
Great.
Thank you, Deborah. Are there any other questions on this slide?
I have a question for Deborah as well in regards to the vast array of places that you've been able to get a positive response. Have you received any negative responses? Has anyone said, nope, I don't want it?
No, I haven't personally received any negative responses. I think that people are excited about the program.
Perfect. That's the best news of all of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And that is sustainable landscaping. Are there any specific questions on this slide?
I think it's about this slide, but you can tell me if I should save it. We, of course, have doubled the money, so to speak, with CVWD for turf conversion in the past. And there was recent news about Rancho Mirage presenting a new iteration of a kind of initiative. Has that been a part of our considerations?
Yes, it's actually on the slide where we're talking about proposed programs, and we have some really good news for that. Actually, we researched the last time Palm Desert did the program, and that was in 2014, it looks like. And so Tricia and I have a meeting with CVWD next week to talk about how the city of Palm Desert can start a turf replacement program.
Super. I'll shut up for now.
Great. I have a quick question. With all this, you know, and I know the staff knew I would, on the plant palette and vignette and the update to water efficient landscape code, which is also important and we hear about every day. And I wonder, are we just looking at it, what's water efficient, what's native? Are we also looking at it through the lens of what canopies provide the shade and do address some of the climate change that we're seeing and the heat islands that we're seeing throughout our community?
Andy Ramirez, are you still on?
Yes, thank you, Amy. And Mayor, you are correct. And you will see coming to August an update to our landscape ordinance in the municipal code. We are making sure that canopies are part of this. In regards to the vignette that you're seeing, we encourage council to see some of the installations that we've been doing on Monterey, and we'll be extending that out citywide in regards to parks and other places that we have landscape. We also will be making sure that as we work with development services, that we'll be able to keep an eye on those trees that provide canopy.
Okay, then my next part of the question then is, are these, as we go through it and develop these palettes, will this be implemented then into development?
Yes, the short answer is yes. And just to extend a little bit upon that, we are very aware of some invasive trees, palm trees, and things of that nature. And we'll be working with development so that they are aware of certain pallets that they should stay away from. So we're going to take an active approach on this with development, along with our partners in development services.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Any additional questions on this slide? Okay, seeing none. Next slide, please. And sustainable landscaping continued. Any questions on that we can answer on this slide? Okay, seeing none, move on to the next slide. And waste reduction. We'd be happy to answer questions if you have any here.
Can we have a little bit more time to read it? You're going a little fast, and I don't know if anybody viewing it and remotely may have the ability to read it as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. We'll definitely stay on for a bit longer.
Amy,
Yes.
the gas-powered lawn equipment, I see that the state has banned the sale of the equipment starting in 24.
Mhm.
We as a city are not doing anything other than complying with such state mandates. Is that correct?
At the moment, that's the direction. What we're more going to be doing is working with AQMD to look at what sort of incentives and rebates that would be available to landscapers, possibly getting that information out, social media channels, Brightside. I know the city of Palm Springs held workshops for landscapers to come in and see the actual equipment that they could, turn in to get the electric equipment. So we're certainly going to be bringing that forward for RPEC to review and then for city council.
Thank you, Amy.
Just a quick comment. I know that CVAG had done some work with that too, so they might be a resource on some of this.
Thank you. Is that enough time to move on? Okay, go ahead and move to the next slide. For waste reduction, we'll stay on this slide for a little bit. And if you have any questions, just jump in.
Amy, remind me, the refillable bottle stations, are those the doggy friendly variety?
We have the option of purchasing the ones that are doggy friendly, that have the top person friendly and then the bottom doggy friendly. Some of them can be just regular without the dog friendly. I think in the past we've purchased the combined version. So moving forward, it'll be determined which ones. I think most recently, I'm not sure, Trisha, if you can recall if they have the dog friendly portion at the bottom.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I could go back and get that information.
Okay. Well, without directing staff or setting policy, my personal feel is that those doggy friendly water solutions are wonderful.
And I don't believe they're that much more than the ones that are not doggy friendly. So I think in every location that we would probably move forward with the dog friendly ones.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I do have a question. Under edible food recovery, it lists that there are 14 tier 1 generators. Can you clarify what that is, please?
I will have Trisha go ahead and clarify that.
So our tier 1 generators include supermarkets, grocery stores, whole food suppliers, a food service type industry. So if they produce food and then give it to, say, like a hospital or something. So those are the tier 1s, and we only have 14 here within the city limits.
And when you say we only have, how many more would meet some of their goals? What is our maybe projected or our goal for the year? How can we incentivize? So just maybe elaborate a little more on the goal.
Oh, so for the tier 1, it's just based off of what type of organization is. So we only have 14 supermarkets here that count as a tier 1. Coming in 2024, we would then move on. Tier 2s also have to meet these requirements, and that includes restaurants. So we'll have a much higher number of tier 2s But to start the tier ones, we only have 14 that we need to outreach and make sure meet these requirements.
Perfect. That's wonderful. That makes it easier to see the progression. Appreciate you.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay, we can move to the next. And this is green building. We'll stay here for a moment. See if you all have any questions. If you just give the thumbs up when you're ready to go. All right, no questions, we can move on to the next. And this is leading by example, city initiatives.
Amy, I'm just reading the top one, and I wasn't aware that we provide incentives to employees who use green transportation. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? How's it going?
We'll go ahead and let Tricia take that one. I can tell you that we've done this for many, many years, and I'm surprised that you weren't aware of it, because I thought that all employees in council at least were blind copied on the emails about the rideshare program, but I'll let Tricia go ahead and explain it.
So I would say we have about 10 to 15 participants on and off who are participating in our program, and a lot of those people use the program almost every week. And we've also partnered with IE Commuter, so they can get additional benefits through IE Commuter. They're doing $5 per day, up to $125. So that's on top of the city's program. So we advertised that when that came out. I spoke to staff who went out and bought a scooter because they're going to get that money back. And so we're getting more people participating. So I think it's going really well. We posted that we have a carpool match program now too. So people can email me if they are interested in carpooling, and I can connect them to anyone else who's from the same area that's interested in carpooling as well.
Thank you, Tricia. And it's my oversight and ignorance to not be aware of this. I apologize. Do we also reward employees that walk or bicycle to work?
Yes, so we it counts if you walk, bicycle, scooter, use a non-traditional fuel source, so electric or hydro would count if you had that, and carpooling as well.
Huh, wonderful, thank you.
Tricia, real quick on that, can you explain the gift cards that, how they're issued the gift cards at the end of the quarter, how that works?
Yeah, so for the city program, they get $1 per day that they use green transportation. And at the end of the 6-month period, they can trade in their points for a gift card to any business that is within the city limits. So I spend a day going around getting the gift cards for whatever places they've chosen. For the IE Commuter, they are logging online their rides, and they get, once they hit that $125, IE Commuter will send me their gift cards and I will drop them off to the employee.
Thank you, Tricia. Are there any other comments on this slide? I don't want to go too fast if we're still, so just give me the thumbs up when you're ready. Okay, thumbs up. So go ahead, next slide. So these are potential city projects. These next few slides are for potential inclusion in the plan. So as we go through, just feel free to ask any questions.
Amy, is this in conjunction with what you were mentioning was part of the goals that everything culminates in a living document and then a summary. So is this the breakdown and metrics of that?
Yes. Correct, Tricia? That's pretty much where we're going with this.
Yeah, so we haven't, as far as I've seen, done any regular kind of annual metric tracking. And so I think that's important to show the progress of this program. If we can show declining energy use, cost savings, water use, that's going to show that we're doing a successful program. So.
Thank you very much.
Thumbs up when you're ready to move on. Okay. Next slide.
And Amy, I have a question on the lead building requirements. Is there a type or category that is most incentivized, and what is compatible with our desert environment? Because I know that I had worked in a gold certified building, and in the summer it was extremely difficult because of the ventilation requirements. So how is that being addressed into what goal?
I'll go ahead and let Tricia answer that question. She put this on there through research.
So we don't have any specifics nailed down for this, but this was a recurring goal for many of the more sustainable cities with some sort of LEED requirement. And it really differed between cities, like you said, which level they were going to, whether it was just municipal projects or if it included any public project of a certain size. I don't know if public's the right word, any private project of a certain size. So that would all need to be determined. But I thought because it was such a recurring goal for other cities, it would be nice if we could figure out what would work for the city. I think this would be a project maybe for RPEC could look at, or we might get building and safety Jason Finley to help us figure out what would be compatible. But the specifics haven't been nailed down on this. This was just a lot of cities have a LEED requirement, and I thought we might be interested in doing something as well.
Thank you. That helps.
And if I could follow up, what sort of tax incentives would be within our control?
So I believe some of the cities have certain, they charge for their projects, so they were giving incentives back on those projects if they met LEED requirements. So it wasn't a LEED requirement, it was a suggestion, and you would get kind of a refund on your fees, your permit fees, things like that. So that would be a potential way for us to incentivize if we didn't want to make it a requirement.
So I have a question. Doesn't LEED certification cost?
Yes, so you can require that they actually get the certification or require that they meet what the standards for certification would be if you didn't want to have people pay that fee to get the actual plaque and certification.
And perhaps we can look at it in a little different direction at some point, because the LEED, if people are having to pay to comply with LEED requirements, maybe there's another way we can look at to satisfy those requirements and make it about Palm Desert and, give the acknowledgement that's necessary. But if at some point the council would like to take a look at it, might be worth it. And maybe building safety, public works can take a look if there's other models out there like that.
Definitely, potentially like a Palm Desert green building certification where we came up with standards, or potentially REACH codes are another way that cities try to incorporate higher environmental building standards.
Are there any other questions on this slide? No? Okay, moving to the next. Again, these are all proposed projects. And as you can see here, we talk about the city's turf replacement rebate. We actually had this on there before Ranch Mirage came out with theirs. And so as soon as we heard about that, we reached out to Ranch Mirage and also CVWD, and we'll be working with them and potentially moving something forward for council review.
Super. I have a question on the first item. Shredding is a big part of the Desert Arc operation. So have we taken account of that in proposing the Jocelyn as a shredding center? If we're offering free shredding in Jocelyn, are we undermining the support Desert Arc achieves for its programs through shredding?
We can certainly look at that. That's a really good consideration. We met with the Jocelyn Center to discuss how the program may work. It would be sort of a, self-shredding on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Maybe seniors can bring in a bag or two and then shred it themselves. So it wouldn't be a massive program that we're really doing a lot of public outreach on. It's just really available to the members of the senior center. But certainly we can look out to Desert Arc. We can reach out to them and see if that would cause any issues.
Amy, I had a question about that item as well. I'm not clear as to how shredding positively impacts the environment.
I think that this particular one just offers access for seniors to get rid to shred their documents more easily than bringing them to we're going to have 3 shredding events next year instead of 2. So rather than sitting in line and bringing them there, this just gives them the opportunity. So I agree with you that this may not necessarily have an environmental impact, but it just is accessible for seniors.
Okay, then I share the concern that there are already venues available between the city and certainly ARC. So I think enough has been said. Thank you.
Amy, I have a question on the reusable bottle promotion. That seems like a great innovation. I love the idea, and I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit more on the water trailer. What is the size, and has it been used locally?
I can tell you that we've used the water trailer from CVWD at events such as Swing and Hops, events that we've had on El Paseo. It's not a large trailer, but it does hold enough water. They usually brought out CVWD would bring out their own water bottles for use. So I think the idea is more for us to potentially use city county funding to put in a refillable water station near the amphitheater in the park, since that's where a majority of the events take place. There is a refillable water station, I believe, by Restroom A, which is on the east side of the park, the southeast side, but it's over the hill of the amphitheater, so a lot of people don't really know it's there. So I think that in the interim, before we get a bottle station installed there, we would probably have CVWD water trailer come out. It might take up a few parking spots in the parking lot during an event.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay, we can move on. And so basically this last one is on June 20th, this presentation and proposed plan model was provided to the Resource Preservation and Enhancement Committee, and with their request for feedback. And this slide reflects their comments and suggestions. Overall, the members were very supportive of the plan model, and they're looking forward to working with city staff on upcoming projects.
Question, Amy. Sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. The recommendation from RPEC with regards to separating bike lanes from traffic, which I think is the Class 1 trails. And frankly, it was a little disappointing that we didn't have more of that in CV Link, and we're learning that. strong is the committee's recommendation, and what can we expect to see about that?
Because this was a recommendation, it's definitely something we can work with Randy Bowman and his team on. And I actually we can elevate Randy if he's still available, and maybe he can speak to that.
Greetings again. So PD Link will include class fours. Class 4 is more like the CV Link facility type. We're looking, if you remember from our master planning for PD Link, we have class 4s that we're planning along Town Center Way, Painter's Path from Bump and Grind East, Painter's Path from the Palm Valley Channel to El Paseo, part of El Paseo west of Monterey. And then Walk and Roll is also looking at where can we fit in protected, at least class 2, which is the traditional one-way bike lane. Where can we fit in protected class 2s elsewhere in the city? We're looking very hard at Oasis Club Drive and El Dorado, for instance.
Okay, and don't get me wrong, I think we're getting a great job. As you know, the most highly sought after bike lanes, I think they're called class 1s, are ones that are completely separated from roadways and therefore do not come up against intersections. And so they're completely safe and they're continuous. Are we already as a city, have we grown past our ability, in terms of what's physically there already, to create those types of bike lanes?
Yeah, Sabby, I think that's insightful. Class 1s require a lot of space behind the roadway curb. In some instances, that would require additional right-of-way. It might take, front parts of front lawns. So it's not off the table. The class 1s are not off the table. In fact, we're looking at some segments of class 1s, but I think a lot of it is going to be a function of how much right-of-way is presently available to fit in a class 1, and then how much more would be needed. And that'll probably help guide some of the policy decisions by council and leadership.
Thank you. And I know they're expensive because if you do it right, you're building bike bridges and or tunnels to avoid those intersections. So I know how challenging it is. Thank you, Randy.
And Randy, before you go, since we do have, I think, at least one member of the public listening, am I recalling correctly that class 4 is a two-way cycle track?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means there is a substantial amount of separation from vehicular traffic.
Yes, ma'am. The city's first foray into a class 4 is the CV Link on-street project, and it consists of a foot-wide raised concrete curb with bollards and other devices to help highlight the presence of the curb for motorists and users of the CV Link alike, particularly at night. The city is taking that concept, advancing it further, evolving it further for the Haystack Road traffic calming project. That will be a class 4 project that City Council will be seeing plans for at some time later this year, so that we can have a decision to advance that to construction. And that'll probably be an even wider separation between the two-way cycle track and the motor vehicle traffic.
I have to say that as long as I've been working on transportation and active transportation and complete streets, I can never quite remember which is 1, which is 4. I have to review it every time. So thank you for helping us with that.
I have my cheat sheet out.
I know.
I think what we'll do, in response to that point, I think we can provide more information like the cheat sheet, Kathleen. We could provide that on the Engage Palm Desert site. And of course, any opportunity we have to engage the public on the PD Link project or walk and roll or anything active transportation, I think we want to continue driving home the education opportunity.
Great. And Caltrans has come out very seriously about the complete street. So we'll have that kind of working for us too. And that provides grant opportunities and those sorts of things.
All right, I think if we're done here, we can go to the next slide. And this concludes our presentation. And so at this time, we'd like to open it up for city council feedback discussion. But prior to that, I'd like to pass it over to the city manager in case he has any additional comments.
I don't have anything additional. Just want to thank you and Tricia for all the work that went into this. This conversation started right before the goal setting that we'd had a number of these initiatives either on the shelf or hadn't really had an inventory taken of everything that we're currently working on. So the idea was to try to make progress on those items. And then if there's some additional ideas that you would like us to look into or feedback that we can get from you, we would love to have that feedback today. But the idea is just to continue getting momentum and report back to you since this was important enough to include it in your goals.
Yeah, I have a thought. And first of all, I too share my appreciation. Thank you, Amy, Tricia, and the rest of the team. This is amazing and a real eye opener. And it brings up my comment, which is I'd love for our residents to know what we just learned, how much as a city we're doing from an environmental standpoint, how much we value that work. So, for your consideration, if there's a way to spread the word, I think we should do so. Also, I know that there are periodically awards given for cities that are environmentally conscious. And if we can apply for that and get that feather in our cap, why not? You all have done such great work. Why not get awarded for it? Thanks.
In response to that, if I can, I would like to say we can definitely look at putting this tracker and this information on Engage Palm Desert as its own little section. We have a few different pages on Engage Palm Desert that Tricia updates regularly. So I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Great. And thank you for all this work. And Savvy's so right. I mean, we do so much work and we don't get it in the paper. We just do it. We put our heads down and get the work done. And I guess at some points we have to toot our own horn, but we do a lot, and it's important that the community knows how much we're doing and how important this is to this council and to the team that makes it all happen. So I think that's a great idea. Okay, are there any other thoughts, or as far as additional thoughts, can they be, how would you like to get them if somebody has another great thought that they'd like to provide or have for consideration?
Kathleen, do you have a comment, since I've asked lots of questions and I do have a question after?
I'm good. Kudos. Fantastic. Beautifully organized, researched, and presented. Of course, people will come up with more ideas, but you've presented a very comprehensive framework that we can be proud of. So thank you.
I have to give Tricia a lot of credit. She worked really hard on this. So I just want to say thank you to her. I think that's important for you all to know that how great she is. She really did a lot of work on this.
Well, thank you.
My thoughts are the same amount of gratitude for everyone involved. I love the fact that it breaks down the organization and who can do what to plug in their individual pieces. Where normally people think of this as a big problem, it shows that there are things that we can do now. There are things that just need to be upgraded, and then there are long-term plans. So this is a very hopeful project to move forward. And when I put my request for actions for the year, that was very important to me, that I wanted Palm Desert to be the green vanguard. We have to go above and beyond and be that green example for the Valley. And I think you guys have brought so many wonderful ideas forward, well thought out, not just stuff to see if it sticks on the wall. So again, my deepest gratitude.
And I thank you for putting it together, because Palm Desert has long been the leader in green initiatives. And, this just shows when you put it together, it shows how much is being done. So thank you for that. Any other questions or thoughts?
Now, we will report out quarterly to council how we're doing. Heather Horning has been arranging those quarterly updates for you. And we have a couple policy questions, it sounds like today, that I'll talk to Amy, and we'll coordinate when we can get back to the council to get your feedback.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I think we've done our work. And we have 2:30 is closed session. So we'll meet you back.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you both so much for all your work on this. Thank you.